Thank you, Siddharth, for that booming introduction. Good morning, everyone. I want to start by expressing my gratitude to BW Hotelier and to Bhuvanesh Khanna specifically, who always ensures that we have an all-women's panel. Not because he's a ladies' man, that too, but he really is an advocate and a true believer of diversity, always has been. I think it's one of the only hotel hospitality events that has a D&I panel dedicated in their session. So thank you, Bhuvnesh. However, given we're talking to a room full of men, mostly men, 70% or more, it would be nice, all supporters, of course, but it would be nice to have a few men on the panel next time. But then let's accept it. Women do call the shots, right? Ultimately, so we're going to leverage that. Our theme is from talk to transformation. We're doing a lot of talking, but is there transformation? If you look at the India numbers, we are half the population. Women represent 50% of the population, but only 28% or 29% are in workforce. And when it comes to middle management, it's only 18%, and senior management is about 19%. These numbers are from the internet, not verifiable completely, but somewhat indicative. When it comes to disability inclusion, Aradhana and I were discussing it, it's about 68 million as per the last reports, who are people with disabilities, and only 36% are employed, and only a quarter of them are women. And what's also sad is that when it comes to tourism, this is the entire industry, we only have 12 to 15% gender representation. I don't have the numbers for PWD, perhaps Aradhana does. So these numbers, whilst they're growing year on year, is still not there. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. There are pockets of excellence, and that's why we have 4 remarkable women here today with us. Madhu, Bala, Sharma, who was born blind, but had the courage and the grit to navigate not only life, but have a thriving career in a top global corporation. Aradhana Lal, who is a very familiar face and name to all of you, is a trailblazer. She represents the Lemon Tree, who are pioneers when it comes to inclusion, and especially disability inclusion. Anjali, who's a dear friend and an ex-colleague of mine, she is a corporate communications specialist and uses that skill to actually amplify Leela's voice in the realm of D&I. Mielle, working with the Sarovar, representing Sarovar, which is a loved and respected brand, is doing a lot of really good work in creating a culture of inclusion. So let's find out more from what they're doing. We'll start with Madhu, Bala. Madhu, you always give credit to your parents for normalizing your life. But I'm sure your life hasn't been devoid of multiple challenges, right from childhood, education, and to now having a career and day-to-day challenges. Talk to us about some of that.
Thank you so much, and thank you for such a warm introduction, warm welcome, and absolutely grateful to be here amongst bright stars on the stage who are shining brighter than Sirius. So no one's supposed to be serious here, right? Only the star Sirius can shine bright, and the folks here shine brighter. I am not from the hospitality industry, but I'm definitely from the hospitality industry because I'm the consumer. And to answer your question, definitely I owe the credit of who I am, where I am, definitely to my parents, because they've nurtured me well. You know, like when life hands the challenges, so when I came to this world, I wasn't the first child to my parents, I was the second one. Second girl child, that too with, disability, being totally blind. Now, in that age, and I'm not saying I'm old, I'm forever 21, but in that age when there wasn't a lot of awareness about what people with disabilities can do, women were being hidden back at home, disabilities were being hidden back at home. At that time, my parents took that step, not just from going from pillar to post to find out how I can get my sight, but also to ensure that I get the pearls of wisdom, the education. They didn't deprive me of that. And that's why I feel that I got this mindset of dealing with challenges in such a way that nothing, challenges are definitely going to be there everywhere. With this realization that challenges play hide and seek, and where there is a challenge, there is a solution. So as I was growing up, there have been significant challenges from getting study material. You can imagine being blind when technology wasn't so advanced. Now it is. I can even, see my surroundings. I saw that this place is nicely decorated. I saw that there is, I saw a poster, a point on the slides that it said that, inspire with passion. I was able to read all of that with technology, but back in those days, I couldn't. I had to literally print my own books. Can you imagine printing your own books? Why do I say that? Books weren't available in Braille. Books weren't available in audio cassettes. When I was pursuing college, I want to talk to you about one of the biggest challenges that I struggled with, and I found a solution to it as well. But that was a big challenge. When I went to college, I completed 12th with flying colors. Not a great student, but still had the marks to get the subject of my choice. I wanted to pursue psychology. Psychology is a subject that basically helps us understand, learn more about human beings, human potential, empathy, compassion, all those traits that are very, very important for the hospitality industry as well, right? But when I went to the college, I was told, you cannot pursue psychology because you are blind. I mean, because I am blind, I can't study the mind? What made them think that, right? So before the Madhu, Bala, Sharma, they saw the disability first. That was the biggest challenge. And that is how it's been with many people, not their fault. Because the exposure has been so limited. So what did I do? I studied, I said, okay, I tried to fight. Didn't succeed, took up the next available best subject, English, did a lot of selling of cosmetics products in the back lawns, made some money, and studied English literature, which was again a struggle. But then I got into the career of my choice. So I've worked for over 21 years, developing content on leadership development, communication skills, motivation, personality development, mind you. If that's not psychology, then what is psychology? I learned so much in my career that no psychology degree could ever teach you. So with those challenges, I navigated through these challenges and I learned that, you see, you have the potential to convert the naysayers to, okay, bring more along. And that's what I did in my career as well. I pursued diversity and inclusion. I attempted to open doors for many like me. Now I'm able to enable many people with disabilities with jobs, counsel them, help them come up the career curve, career ladder, also coach the business units, business leaders to make way for people, people like me and many others as well. So that's how I've navigated in the true sense by taking up those challenges and ensuring there is a solve for them. There's a solve for those challenges not only for me, but many others to follow. I don't know if I answered your question, yeah.
You did, and what a difference you're making in spite of your personal challenges. It's commendable. And what you touched upon is actually converting the naysayers into something positive. And that's one thing Aradhana and Lemon Tree has been able to do, the fact that they believe in the power of people with disability, and they've made it central to their business philosophy. I want to know more about what was the inspiration behind it, and how are stakeholders reacting to this approach of yours, whether it's customers or owners? How do you convince them, and how does it work for you?
So I'll start actually where we are today, and then I'll go back to where it started. So firstly, very happy to be here. Thank you, BW, for having us here. And Madhu, every time I meet you, I just fall more in love with you. I don't know what to say. She's just so inspirational. Where we are today is that about 20% of our employee base, right now it's 18, we're getting to 20% shortly, are either a person with disability or a person from an economically or socially marginalized background. So in our manpower count, people who are different in some way or the other, or whose education is different possibly, they are part of that manpower count. To make that happen, it's really essential how we view each job, each role, and all the tasks that they have to do. So there's a very elaborate process of job mapping that we do to make sure that if we hire someone who's deaf, or if we hire somebody who's autistic, or maybe somebody who has low vision, we are placing them in a role where their disability will not come in the way of them performing that role. The focus is on the ability and not the disability, looking at the example that Madhu talked about, what those teachers said back then. So when you create the training program for people with disability specifically, you have to be mindful of how they can receive that information. Madhu also reflected upon books and content not being accessible at the time of her school and college. So as an organization, as a hotel company, we have to make sure that whether we are training someone who's deaf, someone whose IQ is below normal, someone who has a physical handicap, maybe they're on a wheelchair, maybe they don't have one arm, etc. We have to make the training material and the training process accessible to them. So we teach all our 101 sessions, whether it's housekeeping, food and beverage, front office, sales, engineering, whichever department. We teach it in the spoken word, and we also teach it in Indian Sign Language. Can I tell you something interesting? There are about, total employees in Lemon Tree are close to 10,000, little under 10,000. Do you know that we all speak English, we all speak Hindi, and say it with me, we all know Indian Sign Language. So it's really something important to build culture.
And today is International Sign Language Day, I think.
Is it?
It
no,
is.
today is 23rd.
23rd September.
Yeah. Okay, so great.
It's happening.
That's awesome. So maybe in that spirit, I'm going to teach you guys just one thing in sign language, and then I'm going to speak.
Excellent idea.
Yeah. So if you want to say thank you to somebody, keep your left hand down, keep your right hand on your chin, because you'll find them in cafes. So you may want to do this.
Teach me?
Okay, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
So face the audience.
Yes.
So keep your left hand down like this. Place your right hand on your chin. Okay, this is like making another lady wear a sari. This is a bit like that. So then you bring your hand down and you say thank you with your mouth. So start at your chin, bring your hand down to your left hand and say thank you. You can say the word with
That's
your mouth.
quite simple. Yes.
You can read also. You can lip read.
Thank you, Aradhana. That was great.
Yeah, clapping is like that. So yeah, absolutely. So thank you
For a deaf
and
person
clap.
like this, but yeah, I add the click to it, so I can hear the clap as well.
Yeah, but the clap is absolutely well done, Madhu. So, just to talk about the beginning. So this is where we are today. It's very integrated. It's part of every department of the company. What's really beautiful is there are many of our colleagues who are today part of other hotel companies, and I've met many of them today here, and I can see some also. Hi there. And they are able to carry this thinking and this piece of work when they move into a new organization. So that's really telling me that it is making business sense to our people who are working in operations. It's very practical, and they are able to replicate and carry it forward when they move forward. Where this whole thing started, by the way, it was an experiment. I think everybody in this room knows Pathu. Some of you have worked with him. He actually asked a question about 17 or 18 years ago that if we bring people with disability into the company, what will happen? How will we do it? So at that time, HR was led by my colleague Hari, and he said, sir, I don't have any idea, we'll have to try. So his response was, please try. So it literally started from an experiment. After about 2 years, when we had approximately 20 team members who were deaf. At that time, we were only hiring deaf people. So it was reviewed that how are these 20 people working? What is their productivity? What is their performance? How are guests responding to them? How are the other team members responding to them? The evaluation at that time was that once they are trained well, they have understood their task. Say it's housekeeping. How do you clean a room? How do you make a bed? How do you change the linen? How do you change the amenities? And so on. They will perform the task as well as, or if not better, than a person who's hearing. So it was evident to us that the whole work to be done was on the part of the company. It was not anything about the candidate actually. It was on the part of the company. So that's where the story started, and more later.
No, excellent, and it's true, the fact that they enjoy repetitive tasks, and they're such a value addition to organizations. So really it's about building a culture. Mielle, can you talk about what Sarovar does to build that culture of inclusion? Any initiatives that you've done in the recent past? And also tell us, is this something that HR people, since you're representing HR, are considering D&I as a tool to fill the much talked about talent gap? And being a mid-sized company, do you see that, do you see budgets as an issue? Is that something which y'all are also addressing? If you can talk to us about one or two things like this.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Rakhee, and Bhuvnesh, thank you for having me here today. So before I answer your question, I just wanted to share a statistic that I came across in a 2023 THSC report, which said that in India, only 1% of the hospitality workforce was actually formally trained in a classroom or otherwise. And I think that's not just a skill gap, that's also an inclusion gap. So at Sarovar, what we've been really trying to do over the last couple of years is to sort of not just leave diversity, equity, and inclusion as a policy, but to actually enable it across all our hotels. Our workforce comes from the length and breadth of the country, as you all know. We are very well spread across India. So we have employees who come from very different socioeconomic backgrounds, from very different regions, speaking different languages. And one thing that we are really proud of is that we've been able to penetrate the smaller cities to give people employment opportunities across the length and breadth of India. So a couple of initiatives that I would like to share here that we've been really proud of. So last year we launched our first management training program in collaboration with the Indian School of Hospitality. But something that we did a little differently here is that we handpicked and selected students for this program who would typically have not made it to the mainstream bigger brand management training programs. These students came from very, very humble backgrounds. We put them on a fast-track 12-month program. And we're very proud to say that one of those students who's graduated in food and beverage, we are giving her an opportunity to move to one of our hotels in Africa as a beverage professional. This is a first not only for her, but also for our company. It promotes diversity, but at the same time, it also talks about opportunity, loyalty, and trust. So that's something that we're really proud of. We just recently launched our second batch, so more stories will come from that, hopefully for next year's conference. Another initiative that I'd like to share here is for maybe a little over a decade or so, Sarovar has been partnering with an all-girls school in Haryana called Lotus Petal Foundation. So initially the contribution was more monetary, but recently what we've also done is we've partnered with them to give their students internship opportunities across all our hotels, and with a promise that we would employ all of them once they complete their internship with us. So that's something that we have to look forward to sort of build and improve on our diversity ratio as well. From an L&D perspective, Rakhee, since you were mentioning earlier, we have sort of tried to move away from stereotype typical classroom training because that's not really feasible in some of the locations that we are in. So we've tried to move to scenario-based training, to sort of role plays and actual on-the-job training where we focus a lot more on diversity, focus a lot more on situation handling. So we train our employees on how to handle guests with disabilities. We train them on gender sensitization, on people who are transforming genders, how do you handle that? We've also sort of tried to build in, some sensitization training on mothers coming back to work, people coming back from a career break. How do you sort of get them back into mainstream workforce as well? So we've tried to incorporate a little bit of that into our training. For our employees, sometimes English is not the first language that they speak. So we are also working on creating training modules and videos for them where they learn in their regional or their primary language. So that's something that's really work in progress. And we're trying to do that to incorporate better service delivery to our customers, a better reach to our employees as well, so that they understand what the company's vision and mission is also. So these are some of the initiatives that we're working on, yes.
That's multiple interventions, which is what is required. So one, you can have a culture, but unless there's communication and sharp communication around perception, how do you change perception? Leela has been doing some great work with external and internal campaigns, which have moved beyond just tokenism. And they talk to the audience and connect in an authentic way. Would you like to share some examples of what you've done in communications and what you feel communicators should do to help the D&I cause?
Thank you, Rakhee, and indeed a privilege to be a part of this fabulous panel with such inspirational women. I've been an admirer of some of your work, Aradhana, and taken inspiration from what Lemon Tree has done. And thank you, Bhuvnesh, for bringing DEI always front and center at IHA. I've watched these conferences and attended many of them over the years, and this has always been one of my favorite conversations. I think, when I joined Leela in 2020, we realized that there was a lot of work that we needed to do. And there was still, and we were doing some great things, but this was not being told as a story. And communications is all about bringing out behavioral and attitudinal changes and connecting with your audience, like you rightly said, Rakhee, on an emotional level. So a story is only good as it is told. And that's the point, the starting point. And then we looked at what are the touch points that we needed to create. We worked very closely with HR. I've got Isha right here, who's our Senior Vice President. HR, she's my partner in crime. And we worked together to come up with a few campaigns that we thought was the need, both for Leela as well as us as an industry. One of the campaigns we thought of was called Leela Empowers Her. And we launched it about 3 years ago on Women's Day. And the campaign had 3 verticals attached to it. The first was how Leela as a brand is empowering its own women through our training programs, through the mentoring that we do. We didn't have a single lady general manager. Today, out of the 13 hotels, we've got Preeti, who is the first general manager, lady general manager for the Leela Palace, New Delhi, which is one of our flagship properties. It's taken us a while, but we have a pipeline of hotel managers who are now ready to take on roles as general managers as we open new hotels. I think the second thing we did was also looked at our management training program, which is LLDPE, Leela Leadership Development Program, which we run as a collaborative effort with ISH. And there we've seen in the last 4 batches, the diversity ratio, there is 41% women, and it's growing year on year. We also ran a campaign called I Am Leela, which was not supposed to be a women-centric only campaign, but initially we ran it as a women-centric program to attract women into the Leela brand and build that aspiration that here is a brand that gives you the opportunity to grow and be the best version of yourself. And today, our diversity ratio in the company is 25%, a marked improvement from where we started. We still have a long way ahead, but I think it is a step in the right direction. The second pillar was that Leela, as a brand, is also empowering the industry. And we did some research, and we found that equity in the kitchens was globally at 1%. 1% equity in the kitchens. That was shocking. And actually, Madhu is also right here. He's our Senior Vice President, South Hotels. He came up with this idea on why don't we run an awareness campaign around women in kitchens. And we coined Chefs at the Leela, which many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with. We saw a lot of other brands trying to copy that, and we felt that, you know, this was not just our need, but a need for the industry. So we supplemented that with a full-fledged training program to support it. So initially, what started off as a marketing campaign where you bring in, Indian chefs, women chefs who have made it on a global platform, and you do events and activations with them, create unique experiences for your guests. We thought here was an opportunity to create a program. And today we are in the second year of Chefs at the Leela training program. We've got 36 lady chefs, out of which 15 have been hired as CDPs. So we're building a pipeline. The third pillar was that Leela empowers the communities in which we operate. So we started off first with our partnership with Kailash Satyarthi ji, the Nobel laureate, where we support 15 Bal Mitragrams, about 2,000 children, 50%, more than 50% of them are girls. And they run these Bal Mitragrams to build self-reliance and promote education with children who have been rescued from child labor, from child abuse, and from child marriage. We also work with women-only organizations, whether it is the Jalinga tea estate from where we source our teas, whether it is the laundry bags which come from Jodhpur Mahila Grah Udyog, or whether it was our upcycling of the flowers initiative that we launched in partnership with Pool, which was just not a CSR initiative from the circular economy point of view, but also the fact that we support 300 women who come from marginalized communities. And I think all of this together, it was quite a powerful campaign. We built on this year on year. And organically, it is something that has resonated with our audience. It has resonated internally with our talent. And it has resonated even with our owners who have come back and have been wanting us to do more in this space. So I think communication becomes a very key pillar because, like I said, a story is only as good as it is told. And if you don't tell that story, you can't drive change.
Spoken like a true communicator, Anjali. That was very impressive. I'm going to now move to each one of you and your unique, the lens that you come with uniquely to this conversation. And I want you to just spend a couple of minutes because we don't have that much time. But Aradhana, she's an IIM graduate, by the way, I'm sure most of you know. She's dedicated most of her life to a larger purpose. She's driving ESG and diversity and inclusion for Lemon Tree. My question to you is, how do you integrate these two? Anything that you can share as a best practice to our colleagues in the industry?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So actually, I'm a sales and marketing person. Those of you who've known me from my Taj days, that's the background. And even at Lemon Tree, the first 9 years or so was about that. But the beauty is that I have evolved into a sustainability person through looking at so many wonderful examples out there in the travel and tourism business and outside this business as well. It's been just a wonderful learning journey for me. And I'm in this space for now 12 years, but I'm telling you, the learning isn't done. There is just so much more out there. And I heard 2-3 things here from Sarovar and Leela and from Madhu. And I'm already thinking about what kind of collaboration could I possibly do for our inclusion work or for any other work. So when we look at ESG as a lens, here we're talking about the concept of the triple bottom line. So we don't just look at profit, we want to look at planet, we want to look at people. And of course, the full form of ESG is environment, social, and governance. So if you look for an overlap between inclusion and how it will work from a social perspective, because it's part of that, it crosses over to communities. You just mentioned about communities over here. So as a hotel company, any of us in this room, we can engage with communities in 2-3 ways. One is through the work we do under our CSR program. The other is any kind of employee volunteering that might be going on. It can be extended to communities. The other would be in the sourcing process. You just mentioned that there are certain products you're buying from women self-help groups or from other organizations. And the crossover between this community and taking care of the environment is very, very beautiful. Because actually, if you look at the rural parts of India, from where a lot of stuff is being sourced for our industry, the focus of those communities is how do you give back to Mother Earth? How do you take care of the planet? So without us having to do anything, I want to say it's already in the culture in India across many states. And as hotel companies, because we are present all over the country, we can actually call upon that. It's quite possible. Also, the logic of inclusion, I just want to put that on the table again. While I appreciate and I understand that it's a very good thing to do, it makes us feel good, it makes the customer feel good, customer feedback is really fabulous on that. But it is also a very sensible thing to do. It's a very practical thing to do. Because when you bring in somebody who's being excluded due to some sort of a social norm, you bring that person forward, you give them an opportunity, you train them, you equip them. The whole idea is you have to equip them. They have to understand what your brand is all about and represent your brand. You are enabling people in such a way that the level of motivation out there is going to be very high. So when you will look at, as an HR person, when you will look at your engagement scores, when you will look at your attrition numbers, at a practical level, everything will be improving. So what I want to say is that even on the ESG side, whether we look at implementing ideas that save energy, whether we look at recycling water and reusing water, whether we look at reducing waste in our hotels and managing the waste stream better, whether we look at building green buildings and getting them certified, everything we're doing here is actually very practical. It'll either save you resources, it'll save you money, it'll make your people more efficient, and the beauty of it all, customers will value your brand more. I know many of you here would be part of the RFP process for a whole lot of multinationals. It's incredible the way the RFP process has changed in the last 3 years versus 5 years versus 10 years and definitely versus 20 years. Today, they are not only asking questions on ESG as customers, they're asking you to fill out very, very detailed questionnaires. They're very serious about understanding what's going on. In fact, I have a deadline for TCS in a few days. So
That's excellent.
it's part of our
Yes.
world now. It's the way we do business. It's just
Right.
the way we do business.
No, it's
Very
evolving and for good reason. Thank you so much, Radha. Mielle, you took a career break because you went and had twins, and obviously managing that was very difficult, but you got back into a career once again in your second innings with the Sarovar group. How do you think that coming back and Sarovar obviously being extremely supportive and giving you some amount of flexibility, has that sort of changed you as an HR leader?
Thank you. That's a sort of a very, very personal question. I'm just going to try and answer it in the best possible way I can. So I think for the largest part of my career, I worked with Marriott International for almost 20 years. I grew in human resources, and I worked with some really amazing colleagues, a lot of them who are in this room today, building a little bit of the performance pressure here on stage. But when COVID happened and sort of the world came to a bit of a pause, life had a very different plan for me. I was expecting twins. And I knew that getting back to work very soon was not even the remotest possibility. So I consciously decided to sort of take a step back and take a conscious break from career. So those almost 3.25 years were very, very professionally and personally rewarding. But at the same time, it came with its own set of challenges. While it gave me the opportunity to sort of spend time with my babies and see them grow. But at the same time, I also did suffer a very deep personal loss. I lost my mother at that time, and it's something that just happened very suddenly, so my world came to a complete standstill, and my entire support system sort of fell apart. So the break was, I think, more of rebuilding me personally as well, emotionally, mentally, physically. And I think when I was ready to come back to work, the opportunity to join Sarovar sort of presented itself. And from the person it came from, I didn't even need to think twice. My answer was yes. I was welcomed with sort of, open arms, with a lot of warmth, with a lot of respect. And never once was I even made to feel that, I had to sort of catch up after 3 years. So I think that really goes to show the kind of culture and empathy and respect that the leaders at the company have for women and for, for senior folk in the industry as well.
Kudos to the Sarovar group for doing that.
Yes, yes. So I think now as an HR leader, I think, and also as a mother, I think I have a lot more patience, for sure. I have a lot of deep-rooted respect and admiration for everybody who's sort of, silently fighting battles of their own that they don't really speak about. But what is more important is that now I know that, I can make a seat at the table for somebody who does not fit the conventional mold. Because out of experience, knowing that even though you're on a break, talent really doesn't go anywhere. It just comes back stronger.
Excellent.
So, yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Anjali, you've actually faced every single bias there is in the book. And you've moved geographies, brands, locations, and cultures, experienced different cultures. Tell us, how have you overcome those various biases?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a personal story, and I'm just going to share a few examples here. You're right, Rakhee, every single bias that exists, I have faced it. I started off in the industry almost 4 decades, over 3.5 decades ago. No prizes for guessing my age, but right from the time that I went to school, my father was in the army, and he was posted in this small location called Kunur in the Nilgiris. And I was asked to choose a school, and there were 3-4 schools available there. And one of them, which was actually the best school, I was in class 10, 9 and 10. I chose a school which was a day boarding school, primarily for boys. And I had 36 boys in my class, and I was the only girl. When I would walk into that class, and I chose that, and people asked me, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, yes, you won't have friends. I said, I don't care, I want to do this. When I would walk into the class, people would just walk away and keep like almost a foot all around my desk, as if I came from a separate planet. And from there, there were 2 things you could do. Either you could crumble, or you could fight it and show that you were there for a reason and prove yourself. So I just went ahead and outperformed the class. Going into college, applied for one of the best colleges in Delhi, and I wanted to do English honors and join their Shakespeare Society. That was my aim. I studied English literature, wanted to do literature. Got admission, had done reasonably well, interviews went well, but I didn't get it. I was denied admission because they said my father was in the army, and he would get posted, and then I would be a liability, and they don't have a hostel accommodation for girls. So I was really, really upset, and I wrote a letter to the editor of Times of India, which actually got published. And the college called me back and said, come and join us. And I said, sorry, I am not coming to you. And I joined Lady Shri Ram College. No regrets, great college, and in many ways it shaped who I am today. From there, I started working, and my first job was with an airline. The airline went through a merger. This was the first early days of domestic aviation boom. The airline was acquired by another airline, and the owners of the new airline were the Khemkas, and they came from Chennai. So very orthodox way of approaching. They had 56 stations, 56 station managers. Everybody transitioned to become a general manager. I was the only lady and not given that position. And I was told clearly that you are a woman and you can't handle a station. So I was put on a probation for 6 months. I took the challenge. Of course, I didn't like it, but I said, okay, let's prove them. And for 3 years in a row, my station got the Best Station Award. That was my way of seeking or creating validation for myself. From there, moved to hotels. I have to say that hotels were far better. And I had the opportunity to work with some of the best brands that one could aspire ever to work, whether it was Taj, and Rakhee, you've been a great mentor there. I worked with Hilton, a short stint with them, again, a great brand. Starwood, Dilip is not here. A firm believer in balanced leadership and encouraged, his leadership team was almost 70% women. And he's doing the same thing with ISH, and I don't think, so Starwood is really where I blossomed. From there, I moved to the Middle East to head communications for Middle East and Africa. That role was created by Starwood for me. And we went through another merger. Now, during that merger, all the roles had been advertised. Again, I applied for a position, not given the position because I came from India and not from a European country. So social bias, ethnic bias, gender bias, and more recently, age bias. So I took a step back last year from my work. And I've faced many times where, they ask for a certain number of years of experience, you apply, and then they come back and say, oh, we were looking for somebody younger. But last year, I took a break from Leela because of my aging parents, and I needed to move to Delhi and be there for them. And that was a personal choice. Leela came back to me in about 4 or 5 months, and gave me the opportunity to work with them full-time while taking care of my parents. And now I work out of home. I am based in Delhi. I only travel when I need to. But it is a brand like Leela that I feel has really given me that opportunity where I can contribute and yet take care of my personal responsibilities.
Thanks,
I don't think there are many brands, so a big thank you to Anurag as well as to Brookfield and the entire Leela team for working around my personal challenges and allowing me to...
Wonderful. Sorry, we're going to move quickly to Madhu. Madhu, your son is aspiring to be a pilot. Yes. And more than that, what strikes me about Madhu is the fact that she's totally fearless. She's been bungee jumping, skydiving, going paragliding. Honestly, I don't know the difference between these three because the only frightening thing I've ever done in my life is come on stage. That's extreme sport for me. But that's absolutely amazing. Tell me, were you always like this, or was there a moment in your life where you realized that your disability is not going to define your potential, and you know, you've really conquered it all. So was there a moment? Tell us a little about that.
So I think I love adventure. I love having fun, and I think being a working professional is a side hustle, and living life is the main job. So that's what I love to do. My disability, in my mind, I don't have a disability. Of course, when I'm blind, the disability is there, and I totally embrace it, and I take pride in being who I am. I take pride in my disability as well, because you see, my disability gives me an opportunity to solve for challenges and make way for others like me. So that's how I see it. And others see my disability more than me, quite honestly, which becomes a difficult puzzle to solve. And so since childhood, I've been outgoing and not hesitant at all to ask for support whenever I needed it. I remember, so I studied through an integrated system of education at National Association for the Blind, Delhi. And I went to an amazing school, convent school till grade 6, which was Faith Academy, and then Delhi Public School, R.K. Puram, till grade 12. And then I studied at LSR. That was the college that did not give me psychology, but yeah, they gave me, they gave me space to study literature and sell my Oriflame stuff. So, but I remember that when my school, NAB, would give me a resource teacher, I would tell them that you don't need to send anyone to my school. I can talk to my teachers. I can ask for whatever help I need. So I did that. And then I remember this one moment when I studied my first career with this organization called GE Capital International Services. When I was in final year of college, they were planning to do some special drive to bring in trainers who were blind, low vision. So they interviewed a lot of them, shortlisted 2, and then I made it to the final course. I studied, got trained by GE to be a voice and accent trainer. So basically interview people on their soft skills and conversation skills and accent, basically the mother tongue influence, so on and so forth, whether they can talk to the customers abroad or not. So they trained me to do that, and then they took a final evaluation for everyone. Me, person with a disability, and all other 19 trainers, non-disabled. I not only cleared that T3, the train the trainer, I was told that I also managed to top the train the trainer, which was actually an achievement for me and an opportunity to tell them that, you see, I'm learning the skills alongside non-disabled trainers, doing exactly what the non-disabled trainers are doing, and I'm at par. So that was, I think, a moment where I really learned that it's not my disability that's going to take me to build a career, but my skills, my potential, my abilities that's going to help me build my career. So
absolutely inspiring. We have to close because it says time's up. We can go on hearing these remarkable women and their stories, but they are truly agents of change and are role models for all of us.
But I do want to share before we close.
Sure, please do.
Now that I have the mic, I'll still take another 2 minutes, very quick. I do want to leave all of us with this message that, you see, accessibility, disability, inclusion is not about, in fact, any inclusion is not about us versus them.
True.
At this point in time, how we are approaching disability inclusion is we want to do something for them. And that's not the case. At this point in time, about 15 to 20% population has one or another form of disability. But there are so many others who have difficulties. And when you ask this question, do you have difficulty climbing stairs? Do you have difficulty reading the screen? Do you have difficulty listening to what is being said? The number goes up to 60%. And when you flip, and when you look at disability and difficulties do not come with just, being born with disabilities and difficulties. It comes with age. For the remainder of 40%, it becomes life insurance. So disability inclusion is not you doing something for me, it's all of us doing something for ourselves and together. So I just want to leave this learning for all of you to be good hosts. Because you see, you're in the hospitality industry. For inclusion, really need to be a host. H stands for hospitality. Include everyone, not just for the heck of including for the charity or community service, but true inclusion. O stands for openness, be open to learn, be open to change, be open to new possibilities. S stands for support system, be that support system, include trainings for everyone, PWDs, women, yourselves as personnel, develop yourselves. And T stands for togetherness. Be together, take everyone together on this journey, not alone. Not I versus you, but all of us together. So I think be hosts and follow the host. That's I wanted to leave with all of you.
Excellent, actionable points. Thank you so much, Madhu. That would have been my closing. But I just want to say the responsibility does lie with all of us, and especially with some of us who have privilege. Like they say, diversity is about counting the numbers. Inclusion is about making people count. And belonging is about people never doubting themselves. And hopefully, the industry is on the right track and we'll have a more equitable industry in the future. And the next time around at events like this, there'll not only be one panel on D&I, every single panel will have equal representation of women and men, where D&I is integrated into every panel. That's our vision, and hopefully that'll happen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you, Aradhana, Mielle, Madhu, and Anjali for your time and valuable inputs. Thank you.